Hey, this is Uthris and welcome back to some Planet Coaster. We are working on our next roller coaster today, and it was quite a challenge to get this thing done. I'm not very good at roller coasters. I'm not very well versed in good ways to build them or, standard rules to follow for a roller coaster. And so we run into a lot of troubles with this thing. We're starting near the back of our park, and it's going to come up, and I wanted it to start here and do a vertical drop off the very highest peak, because I think it would be a pretty dramatic kind of scene. To do a vertical drop, you kind of have to glitch your roller coaster, and it for the most part worked, but after a while working on it, I decided to kind of scrap this idea in general because it just looked a little too out of place. I couldn't get the vertical drop to be quite a straight line, and so that was giving me some issues. But what's different from this one than our previous one is the fact that it's going to have some loops, or one loop and a couple kind of rolls. So it's a little bit more exciting, a little bit more quick paced, and we're kind of progressing rather quickly on this one. It kind of wraps around itself quite a lot here, and then eventually kind of works its way in a sweeping motion back across the main path here, and then back up around into the station. All we're doing this episode is working on the station and this coaster. The station is actually very huge. It is a castle, fortress, something very, very sturdy and commanding of the area. So there will be some skips in the speed build itself, so if large sections get completed, don't be too surprised. This was a couple days worth of work to try and get this started. In fact, this is probably the fifth time I built a coaster before even settling on this design. So again, it's gonna be quite a huge area to work with here. And so, obviously, fiddling with the track, trying to get something smooth and something that we might like. And now we're just going to go ahead and get started on the foundation for our station here. And it's going to be quite a process to get a path wrapped around, and getting the actual kind of, pathing tool to work in my favor is not very easy. I kind of wish once the terrain feature comes out, I'll be able to make kind of a more winding path up a hillside, because obviously I can change what the hillside is like, and it won't be needing any of these bridges or anything like that. But I figured, hey, having the path start right out there at the base of the mountain looked a little weird, and I didn't like that. So we're going to wrap around the main path first, and eventually change how the queue is laid out, and we'll settle on a main design. And so, obviously this is a very tall structure because it's right on the side of a cliff. And so we had to be mindful for our support structures that are kind of holding up the main wall here. And so we're going to be building some supports, like some thicker areas in the wall eventually. But right now we're just working on this upper balcony, trying to get that kind of laid out. Because it is going to be kind of tiered. If you guys played much fantasy kind of fighting games, RPG games, anytime you're in a castle or fort, the pathways kind of come outside the building and then wrap around the building and then go back inside. I'm kind of thinking like that when I'm working on this thing. It's going to be a covered kind of walkway, balcony area here with some wooden beam supports. And then we're going to just keep working on the basic shape. It's going to be very boxy from the beginning. And at this point I realized, well, we can't have the complete flat face structure, so we're gonna throw in a little balcony here about midway, just to try and break it up, get a nice little horizontal line there. And we'll be throwing a tile roof on this thing, and trying to cover up as much as that stone as possible. Sadly, there's not a lot of variation in stones to use, so it's going to be this very cobble stone structure, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is what it is. Now, some more foundations going in. and then we're gonna skip. A lot of stuff happened that we're probably gonna cover a little bit more towards the end, but you know, more layers were added. We're working on additional kind of structures at this point, and I'm trying to layer bricks as much as possible to make areas look more bulky, like it could actually support the weight of the structure. Here is a nice tower. It's going to end up being a flag post, which is pretty cool, I think. Adding some windows, again trying to break up the surface of the general front facade there, and we'll have some marble awnings as well, which will look pretty cool, especially with the stone kind of latching onto it, kind of like a claw effect, which works, I think, fairly well. We're having a few round elements on the build, but mostly it's a square fortress, and it's going to be pretty boxy looking. But if you give it enough angles and enough rotations, you are going to find that boxy things can work, just as long as you can rotate them around. Now, I put a mast on top of there because I think it was kind of going to be a focal point, or one of the focal points of the structure, so I figured, hey, you know, why not have a tall spire type of item? It turned out pretty cool. The bridge connecting the main kind of cylinder tower is a nice touch as well, and then of course we're going to go in and keep adding additional elements. Some coverings for the walkway, the queue line, how it wraps through the castle, and that extra, I guess, that side building here kind of makes me think of an armory, so that's why we are able to put in that stucco on the upper floors. The upper floors are going to be more safe, of course, so you can feel free to not use as much stone up there. And then as you go down, it's going to kind of fan out, become wider, more stone, more bulky, just so they can't undermine the walls. That's kind of the general mindset. A little bit of a garden here, putting up a little bit of a short wall to wrap around all the way and touch the last structure from last episode. Plenty of cannons. It is covered in cannons, and it looks pretty threatening once you're actually down there. You can see all the cannons on it. Using these archways to kind of highlight where the coaster goes through, underneath that little bridge, and then decorating the roof. Now, normally you wouldn't decorate a roof, but these guys are actually seeing the roof as they leave the station, and so, you know, it should be decorated. Bell tower, warning tower, something like that, to kind of give us the highest peak of the overall thing. You can see how tiered our buttresses are and our ramparts, things of that nature. It's good to have nice visual kind of horizontal lines going up the structure, and it kind of gets smaller as you go higher. It's always a pretty cool effect. Looks kind of like Dark Souls if you think about it. You know, their castles, or any fantasy castle in general, that's the vibe you kind of go for. Using some molding to highlight the main top roof there. And then we're going to add in a few additional wooden beams across just to break up the surface and make it look a little bit more shambled, like thrown together, because again, this is a pirate bay or something like that, so it shouldn't look quite as clean as it does. And so we'll add some more wood elements in those walls just to break up and make it look a little bit more dirty and thrown together. Now I noticed throwing two windows together here will make it wide enough for that arched window, so that's always a good thing to know if you guys are struggling with using those. And then we're pretty much coming to the end of the speed build. You can see how big this thing is. I mean, compared to the structure that took us a while last time, it is massive. It's going to even have a low-lying wall and a little courtyard out here. And the best way to build these walls is you can build them in chunks, use copy and paste, and just paste them alongside of each other, and then you're going to be wrapping up that wall rather nicely. Some rigging here so people can get up on the walls, a double wide doorway, and then we're going to use a wooden sign for the main gate, and we'll have that open, have some metal rings on it for handles so they could look like they could open and close. We'll have to widen the path, of course, something a little bit more grand. Move the queue a little bit so we can work on a new shape. I wanted to maybe make it longer, but really there wasn't any need for it, so I just did a nice kind of smooth half circle and then connect the exit point up, and that'll be it. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the speed build and kind of panning shots of our castle. At this point, you know, I can go ahead and look at some of the finer details with you all, as the speed build did progress rather quickly. It was many hours of footage sped up, so obviously couldn't get a perfect look at it all. So, main gate, you know, something like this. Nothing too fancy back here. We'll have to build some courtyard and some landmarks back here, like some rocks and some foliage at some point, but that's not something I really have time nor the desire to do at this moment. Here's a good look at our upper bridge area, some of the track area, and obviously the cannons. You have cannons on these lower walls that actually fire. Now in my mind, maybe they spray some fine mist at the guests, maybe help cool them off or something. That'd be pretty cool if they would actually do that. Here's a look of the front facade and how that came together. It's very commanding of space. You know, very high kind of battlements here. Nice little balcony walkway area. The guests would technically, I guess, be allowed on this section, but I don't know. It's so close to the roller coaster and not really part of the line. I just don't know how they'll get up there. Another little rampart here. Plenty of catapults. Not catapults. Man, I'm thinking medieval engineers. Cannons. Plenty of doors to be like these big cargo kind of window bay areas to get items in and out quickly. Another rampart up here. Plenty of cannons, as I said earlier in the speed build. And plenty of little effects. There goes the roller coaster in and around. That looks so cool. So, since the roller coaster is actually here, I know all the viewpoints aren't done, and really I shouldn't be doing this because it's not really going to be the final feeling for the coaster, but we'll go ahead and hop in here and see if anyone grabs one of the front seats. I can rotate my camera well enough. There we go. Let's speed up some time. Let that thing get filled in. Come on, get in the front. Nope, no one got in the front. Okay. Well, let's see if we can't catch this thing before it takes off too much. There we go. So, this is sadly the best seat that we got, which is okay. Kind of a long ride up. As you can see, I lowered the highest point from the top there, and it just goes through the gap and kind of wraps around. But I do like this section because it's nice and slow. It gives everyone a chance to appreciate kind of the overall area of the park and how that's coming together. Next time, of course, we'll be finishing up this whole lower area, and then after that, we'll start moving on to the next theme area, which is going to be Aztec. So let's go ahead and ride this thing around, kind of a curving drop here. There's the Rocktopus ride. And there's the castle. And I will lose some frames. It's not really the most optimized game just yet, but it is nice nonetheless. Here's our first loop. As we come around, there's the tavern area, and we'll swing back through the gardens and everything. Kind of our first roll here. And then it goes into an inverted section. And then back through the loop and around. Nice views if you're not being twisted and things. And this is probably one of my favorite sections, just coming through underneath that bridge area. Very nice and clean. So there we go. I think that's it for our second roller coaster. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you all enjoyed the episode, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more creative goodness such as this. Go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a comment down below on what you guys think and what I should be working on next. And I'll see you all next time in some Planet Coaster. That's a really nice view.